being seen is the primal drive in all of us. And it's interesting. I ran into this guy, Sam Vanaken, online because I'm interested in, narcissism. And he's an expert on narcissism. In fact, he's a pathological narcissist himself that actually, because his IQ is so high, is actually able to notice it and then talk about from the perspective of a narcissist. And I'm adding my own to what he said, but like narcissism, like I've talked about, is one pole, and codependency is the other end of the pole. And codependence is equally narcissistic in the way that it is driving to get attention. And so all of our strategies, all of the ways we show up, all the ways we behave, all of our coping mechanisms come out of the drive and the need and the desire to be seen. And so one of the functions, and I would say the main function besides healing, I would say it's almost equal, is to have one of the things that feels so good about coming to the mountain experience and being in this process of inquiry is that we learn to be able to give really high quality, beautiful attention. And then we learn to be vulnerable enough so that the attention that we receive is actually meaningful. Because if I'm not being vulnerable, the attention that I receive isn't actually meaningful, right? Because if you're just giving me attention for my strategy of being good or being successful or being smart, it doesn't really feel like attention for me, it's attention for my strategy. But when we get this vulnerable, when we get into this spot of this is what it's like inside of me right now, this is what it's like to be me and to be fully seen in that, it actually fills that register that has that deep yearning. And when I'm really seen and loved and accepted in my wholeness, in my vulnerability, it is deeply and profoundly satisfying when I'm seen in my wholeness. And so inquiry method is all about this practice of learning to be coachable. And coachable means to be fully seen in my wholeness, means even with myself, is to get out of my mind and my judgments on myself and to get that vulnerable. And then to share it with another person and being seen and loved in my wholeness. And I'd say this is probably my biggest skill, is like anybody can share anything with me and I'm going to love them and see them and honor them and understand the deepest motivation or the deepest aspect of them that's behind that. And in fact, we can start as we see other people is to know from the context of the mountain experience and the context of inquiry that when we understand where it's coming from, when we understand the story behind it, is there's nothing that we can't put love in, because we understand that everybody's behavior behind that, it makes sense to them. It makes sense because of who they've been and what they experienced and their story, and it dissipates the energy. And it's the same thing when I recognize my motivations behind things and why I did things and understand the underpinnings. Not only do I go, oh, that totally makes sense I behave that way, and it also makes sense I don't need to behave that way anymore. Like I've been seen in that spot and I've relieved that thing. And so in this process of inquiry method, by being fully seen, is then not only do I get filled up, but I also get to release these other strategies that I have for being seen, because I realize that they're junk food. The being seen, it's like that feeling of being a fraud or a pretender or any of those things come out of this feeling is, yeah, I said that, but I'm not really letting you fully see the whole thing.